For over 200 years, Americans have voted. Every year, the first Tuesday after November 1st, you show up at your polling location to cast your vote. Places that are your grocery stores, community centers, schools, and cafeterias are transformed into official voting locations for your city, with all the protection, security, and integrity you expect in a democratic election. Have you ever wondered what goes into holding an election? Before you show up at your poll, many people over the course of several months have been working to make sure your Election Day experience is flawless. Let's meet some of those people and hear what they do to bring Election Day in Worcester to you, the citizen. In Worcester, your elections are administered by the Board of Election Commissioners. This board is made up of members who represent the major political parties. The duties of the Election Commission include voter registration, obtaining the annual street listings, determining polling locations, and, of course, conducting elections. They do not work alone. The city clerk, Susan Ledoux, oversees voter registration and the election process for the city.
Well, I'm the executive director for the Board of Election Commissioners. So I have oversight of the day-to-day operations. One of my assistant city clerks, Nico Vangelli, is the direct supervisor of that division. So every day we get together, we figure out what's the priorities for the day, what personnel is needed to accomplish whatever tasks, and we get it done.
Prior to Election Day, a major focus of both the commissioners and the city clerk's office is voter education and registration.
As a U.S. citizen, you are entitled to vote no matter what your circumstances are. That, to me, makes us all equal, makes this country great because everyone has that right. So we want to make sure everyone is registered in order to vote for Election Day. Sometimes it's a steady stream and the regular staff can handle it, but when it gets close to an election date, we have to have more staff to do it because we get bulk registrations. The requirements, you have to be 16 years old to register to vote. You cannot vote until you're 18, however you can register, and a U.S. citizen.
Registering 16-year-olds to vote might not make immediate sense, but the thought is, once they turn 18, they will be registered and ready to vote. City Clerk Ledoux believes engaging the younger generation as early as possible can make a profound difference, as she experienced firsthand with her mother.
My mother was a political, I wouldn't say groupie, but something like that. And she was always an advocate for campaigning, helping campaigns for the people she wanted to be elected. She instilled that in me, myself and my entire family. I even had, one time, was stuffing envelopes for candidates. You know, she'd drag me out at night and we'd be stuffing envelopes for people. She even got me to be a poll worker. So I worked at the polls before I even worked here. And when my mother was always a poll worker. So every election day was her, she'd be the warden at her place and go to work. It's good to pass on these things to your children to see the process. You're welcome to bring your kids to, when you vote, you can show them what you're doing when you're going in to vote.
Another responsibility of Worcester election officials is to set the ballot for the upcoming election. That is done during an open meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners.
So now that we know the candidates, we have to place them on a ballot. It's not by seniority, it's not by who registered first. We do this drawing. It's whatever comes out of the hat.
So the ballot order for the mayor's race has been set, and now we're going to move on to the large city council race.
The most important thing you can do as an American citizen is vote. Many Americans only vote in the presidential election every 4 years. However, the years in between and what are called state and municipal elections are even more important to your everyday life.
The municipality is one of the biggest persons you can vote for because they affect if your street gets repaired, your sidewalks, council elects the city manager. These people who we elect, they make policy changes that affect you. It might not seem important that the person you're voting for isn't going to affect your life, but it's the subtleties that you don't realize that go on around you. And you're here to raise a family maybe, and you want to have what you need in order for your life to be better.
Now crunch time. Days before the election, every polling location must be set up. This is a joint effort between the Assistant City Clerk, Nico Vangeli, and the Public Works Department.
Scott and his crew are setting up the location, and we'll go from there.
Delivering equipment, moving furniture, setting up tables and voting booths, none of this would be possible without Worcester DPW.
We make sure everything is planned out so that you're able to react if something doesn't work out the way you plan it, but that's rare. The more you plan, the better off the situation is. And this has been the same plan forever, from even when I first started. There's always a systematic way of putting out the election. It's just been tweaked a little bit with as technology has been brought into it.
Hours before sunrise, election and city officials, along with Worcester Police and DPW crews, gather at City Hall to pick up and deliver one last key element needed on Election Day: the ballots. Responsibility of the ballots fall under the jurisdiction of the police.
A general election would require us to man all 50 polls in the city of Worcester. Whenever voting is taking place or the ballots at a polling location, there'll be a police officer to protect the integrity of the election and to also make the polling location safe and secure. And we always maintain the presence of the police makes the city safe for democracy.
The officers depart City Hall and head to their assigned polling locations to meet the poll workers at what are called voting precincts. The final cog in this well-oiled machine is those poll workers, who might be your neighbor, your friend, or perhaps a relative. They will spend over 12 hours on Election Day manning the registration list, distributing ballots, and ensuring the integrity of this process. Each precinct is supervised by a warden. The warden helps staff throughout the day and assists voters should irregularities arise, like registration or other paperwork issues.
There's a Where Do I Vote function on our website, which brings you to where you can look to see where you vote, and it also ties into if they can't find you, how to find yourself. You can click on a link and it'll bring you to the state system to see where you're registered.
Welcome to Election Day. My name is Nico Vangeli. I'm the Assistant City Clerk and one of the chief election officials for the city. Today I'm going to walk you through the voting process.
Good afternoon. Welcome to precincts 9-1, 9-2, 9-3.
So Mr. Walker, he's the warden at 9-3, and he's taking a few minutes from his day today to assist some of the voters. Temple Emmanuel, or also known as the Main Street building at 280 Main Street, is a triple precinct. It's one of our largest precincts in the city. And when voters get to this precinct, they have questions about which polling location to vote in. So we're using the iPad technology we purchased last year to assist voters who find their precinct. So whenever a first-time voter approaches the precinct, or any voter who hasn't voted in the precinct for a while, and they don't know which location to go into, they approach Mr. Walker, and Mr. Walker will locate them by their last name and first name or street address. Once they provide that information to Mr. Walker, then Mr. Walker will direct them to the correct precinct, whether it's 9-1, 9-2, or 9-3. We started implementing this new technology in November of 2016, and we would like to continue to do that moving forward in every single election. We find it in the larger precincts, it's easier for voters who don't know their ward and precinct to approach somebody like Mr. Walker and find out where they're supposed to go on Election Day. We also use this tool as the voter lookup if a voter shows up to the wrong precinct. So for example, if a voter shows up at 9-1, but they're really registered at 6-1, we will use this technology to direct the voter to the proper precinct.
Can I have your street, please?
All these people work together to make Election Day possible.
Make sure you only vote for one this time. Thank you.
Now is the moment you come in. Cast your vote.
Your address? Okay, you're all set to scan your vote.
Election Day has come to a close. The poll workers and police come back to City Hall at the end of the night and turn in their results.
The integrity of the process is important. I like to have people take it for granted that there will always be integrity when it comes to the process. I like them not to have to worry about it. The burden is on us, and ensure that their election process is as seamless and as accurate to the best of our ability. It's a process that's been passed down from when I was first hired. Mr. O'Keefe was in place. He passed that integrity down to David Rushford, and David Rushford passed that down to me. And I'm hoping that Nico will pass that down as he rises in the ranks. Having the job that it gives people that privilege of voting, I feel honored for doing it, and I want them to know that I don't take that for granted. I make sure that everything is done the way it's supposed to be done.